This is the Metalhead Evolution Podcast with your hosts, Mike Sinopoli, Sean Hinnigan, Brad Nolan, and Rob Ruff, thrashing out the past, present, and future of the rock and metal world. Are you ready? It's time to follow the evolution.
This is the Metalhead Evolution. We are back with episode number 5, changing up our format just a little bit to stay fresh for you all. We have decided as a group to go ahead and take any episode ending in 5 and make that a band-specific episode. So what we will do is dedicate the episodes ending in 5 to a band that has influenced us, means a lot to us, we have such passion for as all 4 of us do. So nobody's really left out. We can all kind of go ahead and really feel like we can put something out there for a band that means a ton to us. So we chose for this episode, the debut of our band specific episodes, we chose Slipknot. And I believe with everybody here, this band is the number one band to all of us that we can kind of say we all have high passions for, where there's not a low guy here who's a little iffy on it. So that's why we chose Slipknot. We kind of all stayed friends through this band. Some of us, we've made friends because of this band. They do mean a lot to us, and we're going to get into all of that. So, just getting kicked off here with the guys in the panel here. Brad, Slipknot, let's get going right now. What do you want to talk about? What does this band mean to you? Why are we doing this?
Yeah. Well, hey, if you're episode 555, then I'm 666, if you know what I'm saying over here. Hey, I couldn't leave that one out,
And it starts.
And it begins. The Slipknot puns. This will be very Slipknot pun infested episode, that's for sure. Slipknot, well, even for general starters here, in their right when self-titled album came out, they were doing an autograph signing in Norridge, Illinois. And I was standing there in line with my guitar that I was waiting to get signed. And there were a couple of guys behind me acting like assholes. And one of them here is actually on this podcast named Mr. Sean Hennigan. And
there's no way I was acting like an asshole at that age. I promise you. There's no chance.
I wasn't there, and I can guarantee that you were acting like an asshole. And speaking of acting like an asshole, speaking like having an asshole, as I handed it off to Brad, I met Brad through Slipknot tape trading through a friend, and he was acting like a total asshole when I met him. But hey, that's just Brad for you.
Now exactly. Now assholes. That's a lot more believable, because I was ready to beat this kid to death with his fucking guitar when I met him. I promise you. Like, he is in my phone to this day. Brad is saved in my phone under Slipknot Kid. That's all I didn't even know the kid's name for a while. It was just, hey, this is Slipknot Kid. Slipknot Kid. Is Slipknot Kid going to be there? I'm sure we'll see Slipknot Kid.
I must have met Brad a little earlier, because I still know him as XX Mr. Corn XX at AOL.com.
That's still my email. You can still send me an email if you'd like. That still works. Still
the
valid.
0 though, not the O, it's 0.
Yes, that is.
That
correct.
was the email that Knockdown was. We were having our manager was the XX Corn email. That was,
and then you flash forward about a decade and a half, and I am picking up Brad at a train station for his birthday. We're meeting you, Sean, at the show. Rob, that's where you come in, and we finally all. I knew you through a mutual friend, and we got to be friends through metal, and Slipknot was one of the main bands we discussed, and then. There's Rob, Allstate Arena, November, I want to say 2014-ish.
Yeah, it was for my birthday. It was for my birthday again.
That's right.
Which we'll circle back to chapters. We'll circle back to Slipknot on my birthday too. That is, it seemed to be a trend over the years, actually, with November and Slipknot shows.
Well, let's let Rob kick it off then for us. Rob, I want to know, and I wanted to ask the 3 of you guys, and I will chime in myself, but I want to hear from you first, Rob. What was your first impression of Slipknot, and what did you think when you first saw these 9 guys on a stage with a bunch of masks, banging on beer kegs, doing all kinds of crazy, weird shit in the new metal boom? What did you think? What was going through your head? You were probably about 16 years old.
Yeah, right around there, like 16. And I know Brad's a little older than us, or at least me. And I just remember like hearing it and going, holy shit, who are these guys? And I was almost a little like intimidated. Like, I don't know if I should go see these guys in concert. It sounds like it's going to be fucking crazy. And you hear like these kind of stories. This is before like, this was like AOL chat days, it wasn't like it is now. There was no social media. So it's not like you could see stuff online. And so it was just all word of mouth. So you just like heard about all this like chaos and all these things on stage and in the audience. So I was a little intimidated, but like I heard this music and I was like, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what is this? It was just so raw and emotional and like, but also had all those samples and like the new metal style, right? And it was unlike anything I ever heard. And I knew how much I loved it, and I could only play it at level 200. And there was just something magical about it to me, especially at that age, and it's never left. Like it's always been something that's been a part of me, I think. And but unfortunately, I didn't really get to see them for the first time until Ozfest 2001. And yeah, just you see them live and you're like, oh my God, like what? This is incredible. 9 of these guys just going bananas on stage, and it's truly an art. It's amazing. So
liberate bananas, right? That's the lyric.
Bananas.
And again, what about you?
It was I think the first time I heard Slipknot was definitely one of the demos that you get. Like you get those like samplers, and I think it was, I'm sure Brad will remember, he probably still has one, but I think it was like Wait and Bleed and Spit It Out, I think were the 2 songs on there. Yeah. And I remember hearing them for the first time and just like stopping and being like, wait, what the fuck was that? Like, you're just like, holy shit, you never heard anything like it. Like, as soon as you put it on, you're like, what in the fuck was that? And the same place we met them is where we went. Me and a bunch of people went up at midnight, got the CD the day it came out, because I know we got probably 50 of those samplers at every show I was going to. Every show I was going to, I was getting those samplers of Slipknot. And all, like Rob said, you started just hearing more and more that it's just chaos. Like if you see these guys, it's just insane. So it was like a cannot miss thing. And the first time I heard that album, I was up, I got it at midnight. I would say probably up till 3:30 in the morning, 4 in the morning, just listening to this shit on repeat, because it literally blew me away. I couldn't even comprehend. It was something so new and so fresh. You had no idea. And it was it kind of, I commented the other day on something on Twitter. Somebody posted the first Korn album. They said the Korn album came out however many years ago this day. And I said, this album literally changed my life. That first Korn album literally changed, like it changed everything musically for me. And I would say it all changed again when that Slipknot album came out. Everything was fucking different after that. It couldn't get harder after that. It was insane. And then seeing them live changed everything even worse.
When you said you couldn't get harder, you were talking about the music, not your dick, right?
I don't know.
I didn't know what you were saying there.
It did something to me. It did something to me.
And I like you threw Korn in there because I have an inkling that I could say that might be the next one we do here. But anyways, Brad, what about you?
Yeah. I mean, I got some amazing Slipknot stories and some stuff. So just a little more background about me. From 1999 until 2001, I actually worked for Roadrunner Records. I was the intern in Chicago. So during that era, I was doing the internship, and then I also did some street team work. There was a street team company, and it's called Streetwise Marketing, not the paper, not the homeless people paper, but it was called Streetwise Marketing. And they would send us those box of tapes and those boxes of CD samplers. At the time, it was cassette samplers. And actually, Sean, I think it was Spit It Out and Surfacing that were on those demos, not Wait and Bleed. Wait and Bleed was later on is released. Obviously, the clean version was released as their radio single, because it was literally the only song that they could clean up on that album to release for radio at the time. But yeah, so actually before the Roadrunner Records signing, like 1999 was great for Chicago and Slipknot, because you had Slipknot, at Ozfest, they actually rotated bands from the second stage onto the main stage. So in Tinley Park, you had Slipknot taking the main stage at Tinley Park at Ozfest in 1999. So like right after them, you have System of a Down, literally right after them and stuff like that. So after that set, because I was doing work with them, I ended up on their tour bus and I hung out with Paul Gray. He gave me a cell phone number in like we kind of became like little like cordial friends, like homies. And that's when actually Sean was making fun of me at the Norwich signing because I had pictures with him without his mask on and stuff like that. And Sean's just trying to be an ass. Oh, I'm going to tell him you're showing everyone pictures of him without his mask. And I'm just like, what is this guy's problem? But I still don't know what his problem is years later. I'm still trying to figure that out. But
I would still show him. I would still tell him that you're showing off their mask of his face.
Yeah, man, Paul, may rest in peace. What a great guy that guy was. I'd call him randomly while I was in college, and he'd be like, "Yeah, I'm in Japan right now, about ready to do a signing, man. Let me give you a call back in a little bit." And he would call me back. Like he was legitimately the nicest dude ever. But one thing about so you had Ozfest '99, and then you had autograph signing at Norwich like a month later. Then a month after that, in September, you had the Live in La Vida Loco tour, which was Cold Chamber, Machine Head, and Slipknot. Slipknot playing at the Riv in the little tiny stage, right? So then 2 months after that, you had Slipknot at the House of Blues headlining. Now
that's where I saw him. That was with Mudvayne.
Yeah. So yeah, Mudvayne, Step Kings, and Dope opened that show. So Mudvayne actually on all the flyers and everything like that was actually spelled wrong. It was spelled Mudvein. Like that was literally right before Clown was going to produce their album and stuff like that. So even taking this a little further back, when I started getting into Slipknot, when I was working for Roadrunner and stuff, I would be on their website all the time. So at the time, their website, slipknot1.com, was actually run by Craig Jones and his wife, Kitty. And no, not relation to the band Kitty. It was his wife's name, now ex-wife. So I got to know her really well. And like, we'd be AOL messaging each other on Instant Messenger all the time. And Craig would even respond, "Hey, it's Craig. She's not here right now. She's running errands." So like, I got to know Craig and her really well during that early era. So they knew it was my birthday at that House of Blues show. It was my 19th birthday. So they threw a pass around my neck, and I was just like, was on the side of the stage. I was in the dressing rooms, just hanging out with the band. They even asked me what I wanted to eat for dinner with catering, just the House of Blues catering. Everyone there was just so cool, so kind. I'm this 19-year-old kid backstage at a metal show, like, hanging with this band that I absolutely fucking love. And
it's awesome too that like, not to cut you off, but like, it's awesome when you are like in love with a fucking band and then they end up being cool people. You know what I mean? Like, and like videos you see of them now, still you see some live shit or clips here and there, and they still seem like genuine dudes. You know what I mean? They don't seem like too arrogant. Clown maybe a little bit towards the arrogant side, to where he might be like a little full of himself. But like, you see interviews with Corey, and I'll give you the opposite is like, if you see an interview with Billy Corgan, excuse me, if Billy Corgan these days, he talks like he created music. You know what I mean? And you don't really get that vibe from the Slipknot guys. I don't know.
I got some stories about Billy Corgan, but they're not pleasant. That's for another episode. But yes, I will.
Not sure we're going to do a Smashing Pumpkins dedicated episode here, but let me continue on here, because this stuff kind of gets a little important here. So apparently that was the first time after Mudvayne played, I actually went down on the side of the stage, and I was standing next to Sid Wilson. He was just watching Mudvayne, just rocking out. Then after their show, I was obviously just in the dressing room with Slipknot, and Ryan Martini came in and introduced himself. I guess that was the first time he had met Clown and kind of met those guys. So it was kind of cool, kind of seeing, before LD50 and like seeing that whole interaction. But then previously, when Slipknot was in town for the Live in La Vida Loco tour, Slipknot were staying in the suburbs in some random hotel. I don't know where it was. It was like, it might have even been in like Arlington Heights or something like that. They were staying in some dumpy ass hotel. They probably just didn't have a lot of money. So Kitty called me and she's like, "Hey, like, can you drive us to like we need to get new cables." Craig had to get some cables for, just for his setup or whatever. So I take my little silver Toyota Corolla with a big Limp Bizkit sticker on it. I pick up him and his wife, and we go to Best Buy in Arlington Heights at Town and Country Mall. I don't know if you know where that is, like Rand Road or whatever.
So
Oh,
we walk into Best Buy, and I'm like, we walk by two dudes wearing like original like Slipknot shirts, and like I'm just kind of like, okay, do they not? And so I turn to Craig. I go, do you get a kick out of that every time? He goes, man, he's like, I just don't, I just like my privacy. Like, I hope it stays this way, that nobody, just lets me be me, and I don't have to like, I don't want people to talk to me like that. He's just like, people look at like Craig Jones as like a weird guy, but he's just like a quiet, nice guy. He's not like a super weirdo that they try and like, hype him up to be. He's just like a genuinely like nice, quiet dude. If that ruins the aura of him, but he always was like that. He was always very cordial and nice, but he's just not a man of a lot of words, I guess. So, but yeah, I took him to go get cables, and yeah, I thought that was just kind of cool looking back, and that, he would have a runner go do that. Now you got 15 people that, crew guys that would go get him his cables. Obviously he's not in Slipknot, but yeah, I mean, overall, just to wrap up my stories, I mean, Slipknot just has so much memories. I'd say Slipknot and Korn are my two favorite bands of all time. And I mean, I've seen Slipknot over 60 times now, and that's probably going to keep counting up.
I want to add something here too. With that Wait and Bleed music video, I think that's we can't undervalue that, because that was in the time, like I just said, there was no social media really, or it wasn't, and there was no YouTube. So that was like our YouTube at that point. So like seeing that video was like, holy shit, who is this guy in this mask with these dreads? Scary looking motherfucker. And this music. And I mean, that song itself wasn't that crazy compared to the rest of the album.
What do you guys think
that was
about
the gateway.
Wait and Bleed?
That got me in. You know what I mean? Like,
you guys think Wait and Bleed is an underrated song, overrated song, properly rated song? Where do you put it? I know for a fact it was relatively radio friendly, and they even put out a radio friendly version with the cleaner lyrics without the. I thought that was awful, personally. What do you guys think? Do you think that's been kind of their, like, it was kind of the song that broke them into everything, to more of the mainstream side of things, I think, when they first came up? You think that song's a little overrated at this point? I know Corey's on record saying he hates performing that song.
I'm sure he does. It's probably like Metallica's Enter Sandman, though. Like, they've probably almost always have to play that song. And they don't have to, but people are going to be annoyed if they don't.
I'm not sure if it was so much that, but probably part of it, but I think it's something about the way he has to sing it as well. But what do you guys say?
Well, would you say that Wait and Bleed's a bigger song, or would you say like Duality's even a bigger song? Because when Duality came out, that really got him. That was like a huge radio song.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that when we progress through the for everything. But I was saying Wait and Bleed itself. That's that song. Would you call it an overrated song?
I think it's properly rated.
Yeah, I'd say properly rated. I think there's a difference to a song that like you've heard so much to where you're almost like, all right, I could give or take, you know what I mean?
Become immune to it. You almost become immune to the song. Like the song, you like it, you don't hate it, but you just heard it so many times. And I think that kind of goes without saying for the most popular song or the most played song by any band, always. Really. So
like, I wouldn't mind if they swapped it in the set list for something else. Am I going to be annoyed? Never, because I've seen that 20 times.
But you get the young kid, the 16-year-old now, who's never seen him before, loves Wait and Bleed, and then doesn't get to hear it. So, that's the way it is. And I mean, good problem to have. It's one
of those songs that, like, if I have on like a metal shuffle on Spotify and it pops up, I usually will skip it. But when you see it live, you're like, oh shit, that's right. This song fucking rules. You know what I mean? Like, you do kind of, every time you hear it, you're like, all right, hold on a minute.
Sometimes you got to step away from a song, and like you take a year or two away from it, and then you replay it again, and you kind of reintroduce it to yourself, and it becomes likable again. It's kind of a good thing.
That's how I was almost with that whole first album. The whole first album I listened to so many years, and then kind of got away from it unless I was going to see Slipknot and started listening to him, or just saw him and started listening to him a lot. But then that album came out on vinyl. Like, they just released it again on vinyl not that long ago, and I grabbed it, and I've just been spinning the shit out of it.
So
I have a really bold statement about the first Slipknot album and that era of Slipknot, and you guys might not understand it at first, but Slipknot changed the way live music is done and creating energy from that album alone. And it's because of Corey Taylor. He was the very first person to say to the crowd, everybody get down, everybody get down. And then when surfacing, when it would go in, you got to jump the fuck up and then get everybody jumping at the same time. Slipknot were the first band to do that. And then everybody followed across all genres, EDM genres. You see it across everywhere. Everybody get down and then jump up. Slipknot were the first, and they created that, and they don't get enough credit for that.
Well,
I bet they were the first that we've seen. I don't know that they were, you know what I mean? Like, I think guys like Bruce Springsteen was doing crazy shit. You know what I mean? Like back in the day, I think that you might have came across a band to do
Show
something
me
like
a
that,
video or something of getting people telling everybody to get down and jump up. I've never seen it before Slipknot.
Well, I guess it didn't happen. If you've never seen it,
it never happened.
Yeah,
no, I would love to see it.
Time.
I would love to see anybody. Give me.
I'm talking before videos at shows. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, give me the Beatles. Give me the Beatles doing that if they did that. Like, hey, anybody, the Jackson 5. Show me anybody.
Jump the fuck up. Hey, Michael Jackson's up there, 5 years old.
Everybody get down and jump up.
Maybe the MC5, Brad. Let's try
that. Nowadays, if the lead singer says "get the fuck down," I think there's an active shooter in the back. That's what I think. Now you can't even do that shit. But
yeah, you can't say.
Anyways, now that Brad, you brought up the first album, let's talk about that really quick. And we all gave our ratings for every album. We're going to give you those and speed it up a little bit. But honestly, you guys, the first album, we all know this is an iconic album. It's one of the greatest of all time. And what do you guys say? We'll start with Rob. Let's just tell me, what do you think some of your favorite songs are on this album? What did you rate it out of 10?
I gave this one a 9.8. Really, it's my favorite. It holds a dear place in my heart, mainly because it's the first one. Production quality on it is pretty decent too, considering the time and compared to like Volume 3, for instance. Some of mine are probably the ones that you would probably guess, like Liberate and Spit It Out, Surfacing, Eyeless.
Don't list the whole album, please.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Well, absolutely.
It's like pretty much that's kind of how you start going down with this album.
You gave it a 9.8. Yep, those are some of the ones. I'll tell you right now, I gave it a 9.4. And Purity is up there for me. I think Sick is probably one of the greatest songs you can kick a show off with. And of course, Spit It Out was probably a contender for my favorite Slipknot song. Brad, what do you say?
I'm gonna have to go on this one. I mean, Sick, obviously, Sick is absolutely sick. I mean, it's just when that song kicked in, you're just blown away. You're just blown away from the minute, though, especially when you hear those drums, you hear Clown and Fane just going crazy. Even some of the ones that got taken off, like Purity, people don't give Purity enough love anymore at this point. Even some of their demos, I don't know if you guys have dug deep into the demos of it. Get This or Die, that was a good one. And then even one that a lot of people don't know of, the song's called Snap. Was supposed to originally be on that album, and they obviously scrapped it. But everything from that album that was done in that era, just to be on that album it's perfect 10 out of 10 for me.
Absolutely. You got to throw Eyeless in there as well. I forgot to mention that. You can't see California without Marlon Brando's eyes. I like that lyric. Sean?
That's a great lyric, isn't it? I would say, after the song with the opening thing with all the numbers, after that, I don't know that you have, I'm just like looking over titles and stuff. I don't know that you have a better like 5-song run on an album in a heavy metal album. Like, I don't know that you would have a better 5-song run than Sick, Eyeless, Wait and Bleed, Surfacing, and Spit It Out. That's fucking tough to beat. That's
agreed. It's just banger after banger until Tattered and Torn, and you get like a little insane breath.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what was crazy too about, like, Brad mentioned how they changed everything live. I think borderline just energy from a band alone, like what we're used to now, seeing like singers and everybody, the whole band just jumping all over the fucking place between Slipknot and Korn. That's really like the first ones I remember where you're seeing just the whole band going insane on stage. And that's just what I remember. I mean, who knows, but like, I remember that looking at that, and it was like a spectacle. And when you saw Slipknot, when I saw him that first time, Brad mentioned that House of Blues show, I was there at that show. and now they're only on their first album. So you're just getting a whole night of just intense, just bangers all night. And it just really, you see them live. And I remember leaving, I'm young as shit, I'm covered in sweat. And it's like, okay, well, when do I get that again? Like, I need that right now.
Now, did Mushroom Head do it first, guys?
No.
You
could say Guar did.
You can always say somebody ripped off somebody, but somebody's going to do it the best and get the notoriety, and we know Slipknot did. So,
Kiss.
Did you guys give me your ratings, Brad? Did you rate this one?
Yeah, no, I gave this album a straight 10 out of 10 on that.
Yes, you did. And Sean, did you mention yours?
Nothing wrong with it. 10 is nice. I went 9.8. It's literally basically a perfect album. I mean, it's an unbelievable album.
Well, there you go. So they go on from this, and then I think one of the most anticipated albums these guys came up with after this in 2001 was Iowa. And I really was curious to see this one. I waited in line. It was, I believe, August of 2001. I was at Tower Records at midnight on a Monday night, Tuesday, whatever it was. I bought that CD, the Iowa CD, along with the Afro Man one too. I bought that. Remember Afro Man because I got high? Yeah, I bought that with it.
Yeah,
I remember that. So Iowa comes out, and I don't know. People Equal Shit is about equal as good as Sick as an opener to me. So when Iowa came out, I'm going to let you guys get it started. Whoever wants to get going, just go ahead. I mean, what did you think of the follow-up? What were you anticipating? And what did it leave you fulfilled? Did it let you down? What'd you say?
When I heard People Equal Shit, I think I was probably about 19 years old, something like that. And I hear People Equal Shit. And I just remember thinking, not even 19, I'm looking now at 2001. So in 2001, I'm just graduating high school, but I just remember hearing that and I said, oh, like I actually relate to the lyrics as well. I hate everybody here. This is the worst. People suck. So I remember, the first time I heard People Equal Shit again, it was a whole different mentality. There's not many songs where you just hear exactly that mentality from a band, just being like, fuck everything, and their fans were maggots. You had all that. Like, it was just suddenly if you're a Slipknot fan, suddenly you are just in the grime with them. You know what I mean? You just feel like you're just like, oh yeah, fuck everybody. Like, this is how I get around from my day to day now, is like, I'm a maggot. Fuck everybody. I said maggot, Mike, take it.
No, it's okay. I mean, you can say whatever you want on the show. I'm not going to censor anything. I'm done with cancel culture. You can say whatever you'd like. Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, no, I mean, it seemed like they kind of tried to follow up with the same trend. Like, you had, the song with the numbers with the intro, and this one you had 515. But, I mean, honestly, this album probably is not as complete as self-titled, but it's just right behind it, and it's not left behind it, but right behind it. But nice. I don't know. People Equal Shit might be just as good as an opener as Sick. I mean, you could even interchange them and put one at the beginning and then one at the beginning of the encore, and you're golden. You're going to get everyone moving again from, I don't know. People Equal Shit just blew me away. That has to be a top 5 Slipknot song there. Maybe, I think it has to be.
Definitely is. Yeah. And, it's definitely a great album. I love it. It's not a disaster piece by any means. Right, Rob?
Well, yeah, no, Rob, what do you think about that? Do you think do you think this album was a disaster piece, or do you think it was a masterpiece?
I think this album was a masterpiece. If it wasn't for the influence of the self-titled album, this would be the number one for me. Disaster Pieces gotta be maybe my favorite song. It's up there. It's funny because like People Equal Shit, like I always thought like it's such like a stupid lyric for a long time. Like it's like so simple.
I mean, it's not as bad. Rob,
even like the Heretic anthem, like you're 555, I'm 666. Like, what the fuck does that mean? Like,
I mean, noises. People make noises when they're sick or when they shit. Yeah. What the fuck is that lyric? I'll tell you this. Yeah, I like this album, but Disaster Piece is one of my least favorite Slipknot songs. I'm not going to go negative on it, but why don't we go around the horn on this one? Why don't you go around the horn on this one real quick? What do you guys rate this thing?
I gave it a 9.2. Slipknot keeping strong, but dropping a little bit. And I say that because I feel like for a while that was the trend.
And I felt like this one was great in the first half, and they let me down a little in the second. Didn't think it was their best album, even maybe not even their second best in my opinion, but I still gave it an 8.6 because it's that good.
Yeah, I threw a 9.5 on this one. Obviously, self-titled is king to me, but this one, right below it. One thing too, I want to mention, like right between these two albums came out. I think one part of Slipknot and the excitement we had for them during this era was the tours that they were on. And one tour that they were on right between these two was Tattoo the Earth tour. And look at that lineup now. I mean, that lineup had everyone. That was one of the most unique lineups. You had Slipknot, Sevenda, Slayer, Coal Chamber, Sepultura. You had Mudvayne, Hatebreed. You had all these bands. I'm not even naming 90% of the bands, but I feel like the tours they were on, and then obviously then it led into the Iowa tours, which, Pledge of Allegiance tour, Rammstein, System of a Down, Slipknot. I feel like so much of that, like we got so much of their energy from these albums because the opportunities we had to see them live were so memorable during this time.
Absolutely. And Brad, I wanted to ask you a quick question. I wanted to ask it earlier because you mentioned a show at House of Blues where Mudvayne and Dope were there. Now I went to a show at the Congress Theater and Mudvayne and Dope were the openers there. And Mudvayne was very unknown at that point. So was there two tours with the same lineup like that?
So that was actually April 15th and April
2000.
2000. Yes.
Yeah.
And they had the white jumpsuits and It was absolutely incredible. Yeah, I mean, that was definitely a later tour. And, Mudvayne, obviously right at that point, Clown was producing their album. So Slipknot's like, hey, you're come out with us. And, that's kind of how that kind of whole thing started. But yeah, that was like right before LD50 because later that year was the LD50 release party was at the House of Blues later that year in September of that year because Factory 81 opened, some other bands that I was like kind of doing some work for. So it all kind of like led into that. Like Slipknot blew up and then they brought Mudvayne in and then, Mudvayne did their thing in the process. But that was an amazing show.
All right. So Rob, did we get your rating on this album?
I was just going to jump in.
Go for it.
Fancy you say that. I gave it a 9.4. And I mean, my favorites are going to be Disaster Piece, Heretic Anthem, believe it or not, people equal shit again, even though I hate on the lyric. I did at one time. It grew on me. Left Behind, Skin Ticket, New Abortion, solid.
Again, you like the whole
but yeah,
album.
I agree. I do. But I agree, like towards like the end, it kind of it gets a little more spacey, but man, it's hard to beat that intensity of opening of that album. Again, even piggybacking on Slipknot self-titled, but
right.
Love the album.
Great. I hear you. So we got everybody's ratings out there. Brad, you gave us yours, Sean, everybody. All right. So another very high rated album. And then the band sort of moves along here. And in my opinion, Slipknot self-titled in Iowa were kind of that little new niche of Slipknot where they were kind of that cool new up and coming new metal band that just kept growing and growing. And I feel like the third album, Volume 3, Subliminal Verses, blew them up into the mainstream. This is where Slipknot got well known. This is where I think we started seeing like young kids everywhere wearing their shirts and like they probably only knew two songs like Duality and Before I Forget and all that shit. And we talked earlier about some production issues on this album and what do you guys say here? And Brad, what do you say? You're the one that was kind of following them and friendly with them, filming backstage and things like that. Were you still doing that stuff when Volume 3 Subliminal Verses came, or was that passe at the point for you?
Yeah, I was kind of doing more work with like the My Chemical Romance and the Used and stuff like that at the time, and I'd say right around early 2003 is kind of when I fell out of touch with Slipknot. Paul had changed his number. I had no really way of contacting them. They were playing the Allstate. Like I just had no way of getting in touch with them at that point. So I was just kind of, just going to shows and enjoying them at that point.
All right. Well, yeah, that's exactly kind of follows suit because, like I was saying before, this album is where I think they got mainstream, and I don't know. So, what do you say, Rob? I mean, what do you think about this album? I personally think this album is very overrated, in my opinion. I think it's an overrated album. I think it's really a 2-track sort of deal with a few other decent ones in there, but a lot of it falls flat to me. And I'm just going to put my rating out there, let you guys have the rest of it here, because I gave this thing, I think, the lowest of all of us at a 5.8. I don't really think there's a lot of memorable tracks within here. I think it's definitely a big drop off to me, despite the fame that Duality and Before I Forget were given. I really think that's all that's there. I think it's a 5.8, decent album and a few good songs.
Yeah, I think they got a lot of credit for being Slipknot when this one came out. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, it's Slipknot, so it's awesome. You know what I'm saying? I think they got a lot of credit for that. I didn't dislike it as much as you. I liked it a lot still. And again, though, I think part of it is just almost like I say, it seemed to be almost a trend for me where every album was getting a little bit less. I gave this one an 8.3. I still liked it a lot. But I see what everybody says about it. Like, I see where you're coming from, where you're saying nothing much. It could have gone, like, it's a little bit more mainstream vibes. Yeah, I mean, Duality is a song that at this point you've heard it so much you forget it came out 3 albums in. You know what I mean? You hear it so much, I'm like, oh shit, like that's right. It's on that. But it was it's a fucking really good song.
20-year-old song now. Can you believe that shit?
Right.
These songs that we remembered coming in and downloading on Napster and all that bullshit. It's a 20 years old now.
It's insane. It's insane. But yeah, I gave it an 8.3. I still liked it a lot. But Slipknot was changing. You know what I mean? You see it going a little bit of a different direction.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of gave it an 8 on this one. Honestly, Before I Forget and Duality are fucking anthems by Slipknot. I mean, those are going to be classics in their set list for forever. I mean, those are 2 songs that, definitely put them on the map on the, at least on the mainstream side of things, which, a band has to make their money. And, I don't blame them for evolving a little bit. You can't expect the next Iowa. You can't expect the next, as fans, we're always going to say that, oh, I hope it's as heavy as self-titled. Mm-hmm. I hope it's this or that. But at the end of the day, we kind of just got to let the bands evolve and do what they're going to do. And, as we're getting older, I think we kind of appreciate a little more when bands, do take those risks and evolve, because most of them, I mean, hey, look, we went from Avenged Sevenfold never doing a review of Avenged Sevenfold to people not shutting up about the Avenged Sevenfold album in 2 months. So
one of the greatest albums I've ever heard. And I'll tell you that Sean loves it. And I'll tell you this. You can't please anybody, because one of my least favorite things about music, where everyone just needs to have their piece, say what they want, because you can't please anyone. The band should be able to do whatever they want to do creatively. It's their band, their music, their brand. It's what they're doing, because you're always going to have that fan that they sold out. And I only like their first album and only the first half of it, because everything else is sellout shit. Everybody, then you at the other side of everyone, that's the same crap over and over again. They don't do anything new or try nothing. You can't please everybody, so the bands are going to do what they're going to do, and I don't care what you say. Slipknot successful regardless. So
one other big thing about this album too, in particular, coming out in the end of 2004 when this came out, that was kind of the end of the new metal boom in a way. So bands, if you're going to really kind of push to that next level, that was right when, obviously the emo phase and the whole emo genre was booming. People were kind of moving on. So to stand out, to keep things going, you have to evolve. And I don't blame them for taking those risks.
Absolutely not. And you're exactly right. This was the tail end of that new metal boom, and things did start changing. It was about a 7-year boom, I'd say. And this was the end of it. Right, Rob?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I would say, well, first of all, the production value on this album was fucking awful. It sounded like this was recorded in a garbage can.
It's the second worst album of that year. Right?
It's almost unlistenable to me. Like I had to go back and re-listen to this album. I'm like, I can't fucking do it. I really can't. Like, you can hardly hear the cymbals. You can barely hear the drums. The guitars are pretty much the only thing you can hear in somewhat a Corey, but Otherwise, it just sounds muffled. It sounds raw. Like it just doesn't it doesn't match the curtains don't match the drapes for me.
So they should have
Um,
just called it Saint Anger.
yeah, basically, that's the way I feel about it.
It
Their
sounded
Saint
like they
Anger.
just put 50 layers of guitar. Honestly, like it just sounded like they put 50 layers of guitar, one set of drums. You know what I mean?
It's like you turn it up to as high a volume as you can, and it's still not loud enough. You're like, I still can't hear this. What the fuck is going on with this album? I think though that for me that ruined it. Because as I listened back to it, I've heard almost the whole album in live. And I'm like, I've never been disappointed by hearing any of these songs live. To be frank, I haven't.
Your name's Rob, not Frank.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, like
Rob.
The Blister exists, 3-0, Duality. I mean, Vermilion, Pulse of the Maggots. Before I forget, is probably one of my lesser favorite ones. But you know, there's a lot of really good songs on there, to be honest. Yeah, but I mean, the production just sucks. So that's why I gave it the worst score of any Slipknot album.
And that is Frank.
And that is, you know what? It would have gotten maybe a 1.5 more from me had I could have listened to the album the way it should have been listened to. So maybe there's someone out there that can reproduce it, remix it.
I'm sure somebody on YouTube's done it, but what is your rating on it?
I gave it was 7.4, right?
I have 7.7 for you.
Oh, 7.7. No, I'm looking at it now. Yeah, 7.7.
All right. Thank you, Frank. Okay. Very good.
Frank for the
very
memories.
Good. Very good. Very good. So I think from here is where Slipknot kind of even turns in another direction from here. What do you guys even remember in between this album and All Hope Is Gone? Is I believe there's a 5-year gap here. I want to say it's 03 to 08. I'm not looking at it. I'm guessing. But what was
04 to 07? Yeah, or 04.
Okay,
sorry, 04 to 08.
Okay, 04 to 08. Yeah. Okay, so there's a decent gap there with no album, I'd say. What was Slipknot? They've just been heavily touring, I would say, right, Brad? Would you say during this time? Do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of backed away a little bit from music during that time. I was kind of just stopped going to shows for a bit. But I did, I think I did see them once. I think I might have seen them in 2009 at the end of this cycle. I believe this was obviously the last record Paul Gray was on. And I saw them doing, I think that they were touring with Rob Zombie and over like some shows, because I was living in Vegas and they did a weekend and Zombie played one night, Slipknot played the other. But it was actually the show I went to was Paul Gray's last show. In my opinion, I really don't care much for this album. Snuff, Sulfur, Psychosocial's a decent song. I gave this one a 7. I don't really listen to it often, and I hope that they play very few songs of this one live. I just don't really care much for it.
We're jumping right into All Hope Is Gone. I just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, no, you're right. This would be the last one with Paul Gray, as you said. This is about 08, 09. And yeah, this one sort of All Hope Is Gone. I remember some jokes kind of going around the internet and with friends and such that's what they had for this band at this point. That all hope for this band was gone after a little bit of a disappointment into a little bit of a mainstream twist in Volume 3. They kind of followed this up with something that, I personally think this album's better than Volume 3. And since I'm speaking right now, I'll give you my rating on it, which I put is a 7.1. I do like Sulfur, I do like Dead Memories, and I do like Psychosocial. So I think this album has some good to it. I think it's a good album. I don't think it's great. I think it's good. And I would listen to it here and there. But again, not too much special, not so memorable, but a solid rock album, metal album from this band. Sean?
I think Psychosocial, as good of a song as I think we all say it is, I feel like it's blurred because it's such a live song. You know what I mean? It's like another one of their anthems where the whole fucking crowd is just screaming Psychosocial. You know what I mean? Just the whole like, just the almost like Slipknot just has like a drive where it just keeps coming and coming and coming and coming. And I feel like that's one of those songs that really does that. This album was a drop off again for me for Slipknot. Now in all fairness, like Brad said, like the emo stuff was getting bigger, and I started kind of falling more into that vibe. I was heavily into like Finch and the Used and that kind of stuff. Like, so my musical taste was waning to different ways, but I gave it a 7.3. It just, to me, it was all right, but it was not living up. Suddenly I'm noticing a band that's dropping off for me every album, and I'm still looking for them to come at me as hard as they did in that the first album and still bring me that type of energy. It's almost like you wanted them to be reborn. And I understand the masks and stuff were happening and they're changing every album, but it wasn't doing it for me. I gave it a 7.3. I gave this one.
All right. Well, Robert.
Yeah. I was gonna say I'm with you, Sean. Like, and that's kind of how I felt about Volume 3 at the time too. Like, looking back, also aside from the production quality, it was there was a lot of grunge influence in that album. There was like, it was not like, after the first two albums were just like this sonic assault, just pummeled you in the face. It definitely felt like a more mainstream vibe, and that continued with All Hope Is Gone for sure. However, in retrospect, listening to it, and I gave this album a 8.1. Which is higher than I originally had it in my head. But going back and re-listening to it, there's actually some good songs here. If you strip out that like expectation of like I'm hoping that this is gonna rip my face off and melt it, and it didn't. So if coming back with like a fresher perspective, aged 20 years, I think it's actually a fairly okay album. I'm good with it. I think it's a pretty higher quality than I originally thought. So, especially like songs like "Child of Burning Time," "All Hope Is Gone," "Wherein Lies Continue." There's songs that I've heard. If you've heard it live, and there's some hooks in there too that are actually really good. It might kind of lose me maybe in the verses, but I think it's better than it gets credit for. And Psychosocial, I think, is a great song. I think you're right, Sean. It's a better live song. But again, it's a little more like straightforward. For like Slipknot, it's a really like straightforward beat, like just but kind of going down the pop line a little bit, but it still has a little bite to it. I don't know. And I guess that's probably why you see like elementary school kids covering it.
Very well could be. So, that album happened, and we said there was this little gap there, but as things progressed, after that, a lot of shit goes down, right? Paul Gray passes away. I believe Joey leaves the band as well after this album. Am I right, Brad? I think so.
That was after
sure.
the Gray Chapters.
I think he left in 2013. So I think that was
the Great Chapter was 2014.
That was after. I think.
Yeah, I think he recorded. Didn't he?
I think he recorded it.
I think he recorded it. Then Jay Weinberg came in and started touring.
It says here,
if I recall.
This is okay. Here we go. It was the first studio album. It was the first studio album. Frank, give me a minute. It was the first studio album by the band in 6 years, and the first not to feature original founding members, bassist Paul Gray and drummer Joey Jordison, due to the death of Gray and Jordison fired from the band in late 2013, as well as the only Slipknot album to feature original guitarist Donnie Steele on bass. So there you go.
Yeah, he didn't want any part of it. I don't think that
guy
wanted to do it anymore.
As we're going into, there's a large gap, 2008 to 2014. That's the longest gap without a studio album from Slipknot. We're looking at 6 years. And I'm going to kick this one off. And guys, I'll tell you, I always liked a lot of songs off this album, and I haven't gone through and listened to this album full through in years. And I did recently because we're leading up to this episode. And this is, to me, one of their best albums. I really like this album. This thing. There's songs that I don't even remember listening to from before that are just outstanding on it. And, Devil and I, Kill Pop, Custer, that kind of all goes for you. AOV, all these, it's a really great album. And I really not great, but necessarily I gave it the highest rating of all of us. It looks like here is at an 8.4. But I could listen to this one right through. I think it's really good.
Yeah, I mean, it does have some bangers on it. I'm not gonna lie. Like Devil and I, that's an amazing. Sarcastrophere was like probably one of the best like second tracks since Iowa, in my opinion. I mean,
And I wanted to
it
mention
was really good.
I
Like
wanted to mention that one, Brad, but I can never say it right. So I'm glad you.
Sarcastrophe,
So I'm glad you did it.
Sarcastrophe. It's
Yeah, I don't know how to.
Sarcastrophe.
Whatever.
Yeah.
The one
Yeah.
from the opening song from the album.
But I gave this album a 7.5, and the reason why I brought it down is because I hate Custer so much. If I could say I hate a Slipknot song, I absolutely hate that song. I think it's the most annoying, ridiculous Slipknot song, and I think they tried too hard on that one and they failed miserably.
Brad, this Custer is Slipknot's version of Korn's "Y'all Want a Single."
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, 100%, 100%.
Right?
I'll give you that. I'll give you that one.
Pretty good.
You kind of like them a little bit inside. You just don't want to tell
no.
You sure about that?
I like.
I don't like y'all like a single. Y'all
I don't like y'all want a single is just kind of.
I don't like y'all want a single, but I don't mind Custer.
All right, so Brad gave it a 7.5. I gave it a 8.4. Sean, why don't you go?
So again, I felt like it was kind of dropping off. I felt like they were kind of going down again and not up to the same standards. I don't know if at this point I felt like it was just a shtick at this point. I was like, all right, like we get it. You're Slipknot, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. But again, it was just a drop off for me. I gave it a 6.9. And to me, it was just still chasing the energy on the first, and it's my own fault. Like, you do go back and you listen to these and they're not bad albums. Like, I really like everything they put out, and I will not miss them when they come to Chicago, like stuff like that. Like, it's a band that I have to see every single time, but their albums for me were consistently getting worse and worse. I gave this one a 6.9.
Okay, 6.9, he says. Rob, we got to hear from you.
Yeah, I am. I gave this one an 8.3. You know what? I like this one. This one actually brought back some of the intensity some of the other albums were lacking, I thought. I thought this was more of a return to form and also a step forward in a new direction for Slipknot. Less of that kind of poppy rock feel or more melodic. Less melodic.
It did get away from his Stone Sour vibes, I will say. On this album, they got away from the Stone Sour stuff and back to just Slipknot. I will say that.
So,
I like that.
Exactly. Like, for me, it was like, okay, we're not going the Stone Sour route. And you know what? I like the Stone Sour stuff, but I like it just being Stone Sour, not Slipknot, right? And I think we all feel that way. Like, but yeah, this one was more, I felt, a step in the right direction, and I really enjoyed that. And you know what? The touring cycle on this one was solid. The stage production was great. And hey, it brought all of us together. So I will say that as well, from a sentimental standpoint. But yeah, I mean, The Devil and I, Kill Pop, Sarcastrophe, Custer, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, and hey, this, like we said, Slipknot kind of brought us all together as pals, and who else was at that show? Korn, right?
Yeah,
they were right before, co-headliner, I believe, of sorts. I mean, so that was cool. So that'll be who we talk about next. We've already mentioned Korn about 3 times here, so a little preview action here. But now, go ahead, Brad.
Well, I guess we won't be blind going into that one.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one, Rob.
Nice one.
One funny
knee joke.
One funny thing to note, when we all took a photo at that Korn and Slipknot show, and it was like, Mike, Sean, Artie, Mike Murphy, and I didn't know this person. I said, "Hey, can you take this photo?" And it was Rob that took the photo for all of us.
That's right.
Now here we are. Now Rob, you'd be in the photo next time. So
yeah.
Next time we all hit a Slipknot show, let's make sure we do that for sure. And then as the band moves forward, there's some lineup changes that keep going. And Sean, I want to say that you've been mentioning every album has been trending down for you since the start. And I believe, and I'm going to let you kick this thing here going off here and, just providing a little direction, but I think you're going to change your tune here a little bit with We Are Not Your Kind. When that album came out, what happened there?
Slipknot's fucking back, baby.
Yes.
Slipknot is fucking all the way back. Now, again, like I've said, it could be that my musical taste was different a little bit for those two albums, those last two. And then I started really coming back to metal and like almost strictly metal and hardcore. But I love this album. Like, to me, this album is back to where it kind of all began. And I just think top to bottom, it's a great fucking album. I gave it a 8.8. I feel like this is their third best album. I just think it's great. I think they came back and this album was solid from start to finish.
Yeah, couldn't argue there at all, man. I mean, I'm going to just follow you right there with everything you said. And I think 3 of their best songs they've ever created are on this album. And it's Unsainted, Solway Firth, and Nero Forte. I think those are
fantastic
songs. I think those 3 are great. Birth of the Cruel is another good one. Critical Darling. I really love this album front to back. It's, to me, as the ratings go, I'll give you mine. I gave it a 9.2, which based on my ratings, this is my second favorite Slipknot album. So talk about a resurgence. I really believe so. We got to see them. I got to see them play some of these in concert. You guys were all there too a couple of years ago. It was right after everything started opening up again. We got to see Slipknot, and we were talking about their energy to start this thing. Brad was telling us, when they first got started up, that's what really brought everything together. And man, they haven't lost shit for a step when they were there. It was just a fantastic show the last time we saw them with this album. So that's my rating right there, a solid 9.2.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great show. And when you had Kill Switch and Code Orange opening, that was a solid show.
Yeah,
no, it was Kill Switch and Fever 333 that opened that one. Sorry.
And Code Orange was
Code
before
Orange
that.
was there too.
Code Orange
Yeah,
was
I was like,
first.
I swear Code Orange was there. I swear.
Yeah,
I was like, wait a minute. I know Fever was there too, but I got to agree with you guys on this one. Slipknot, definitely wanted to prove a point. Like, hey, we've taken a while, but you know what? We still can make fucking music, and they proved it. Like Mike said, Solway Firth is absolutely one of their top songs. That song is amazing. I know Rob absolutely loves that song too. So I guess we can kind of all agree on that one. I think the one thing that kind of triggered the idea that Slipknot might be coming out with a really good record is randomly on Halloween that year before, All Out Life. They just dropped a song on their website. They're like, here's a new song on Halloween. It was called All Out Life, and it was amazing. Then they teased us with Unsainted, and then we got the album, and we got to hear Solway Firth, Nero Forte, Critical Darling, and all these amazing songs. I gave this one a solid 8.5. I'm not going to say that it's at Iowa self-titled levels, but I would say it's right around that range of enjoyment. Like, I love the album, and I hope they play more of this than their 2 previous albums before it. Rob, I know we remember when we went to that show, we heard them warming up to Solway Firth, and I know how excited you got.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I'll never forget that, because the whole time, we had that VIP section, which we were front row on like the side of the stage with an obstructed view. I'm still salty about that. Spend all that money to have an obstructed view. But we were waiting in line to get some merch, and then heard them sound checking that song. I was like, oh my God, Brad, they're gonna fucking play it. They're gonna debut the song, and we're gonna hear it. This is gonna be awesome. And they did it, and that was so cool. I'll never forget that moment, because you're right, Brad. I have to say that that is my favorite Slipknot song. That is like the ultimate workout song. There is something visceral about that song that connects with me, that just tugs at my heartstrings and just brings a ton of emotion out of me. So maybe it's just this emotion as a male where you're like stuffing emotions in, and it's like, you want the real smile. I haven't smiled in years. That's the best. That's gotta be the best closing lyric of a song, I think. I don't know, especially the way it's screamed and sung. But I gave this one a 9.1. Not as good as Iowa and Slipknot, Slipknot. I mean, if it wasn't for like Spiders, I probably would have rated it higher. I don't know, that there's just like that. There's one couple weird songs on there that I'm like, what is this? But yeah, Unsainted too reminds me of kind of Rolling Stones vibe. The opening of it, You Can't Get What You Want, it reminds me of that song. And I don't think it's like a rip off of it. It's done in a nice, tasteful way, but love the opening of that song. Yeah, Nero Forte, Critical Darling, Birth of the Cruel, Red Flag. Those
all
are
of them. All of them again, Frank.
Again, yeah.
Orphan.
It's so
Not Long for This World too. Actually, I really like that song as well.
Good.
Love it.
I like the album. I like that. Okay, good. And I was with my buddy Kevin, and when Solway first came on, I never seen him act the way he did. It was like he was having an outer body experience his reaction to that song was just, holy shit, I've never seen this guy just get slapped in the face by a metal song so heavily and just react in such a way that was just, man, it was memorable. I'll tell you that. So, they do that, and then they pop off some other album a couple of years later here. Their latest and greatest. Is the latest the greatest, guys?
I really want to talk about this one.
I think we just call this one Sloppy Seconds.
I'm going to tell you guys real quick. I'm not even going to waste my time. I gave it a 2.7. Adderall's okay, and I don't like anything else. So I'm going to let you guys hammer this one out.
This was the disaster piece, so to speak. We Are Not Your Kind was the resurfacing, a sick resurfacing. But I think this was the true disaster piece. Maybe we'll look back in time and I'll look at it differently. Maybe I need to listen to it more and give it more of a chance. But like listening to songs, none of them really did it for me. It just felt like everything from We Are Not Your Kind that didn't make the cut, Right. And then also just like a random single that they had already released, Chapeltown Rag. It felt like that just got like thrown in there. So it just definitely like almost like an EP compilation, like leftover, like they were just trying to get this one out and move along. Yeah. So
and like you're saying, it felt like a situation where it was like, we also have all this leftover stuff, right? And that's kind of, I guess, some of the stuff you're hearing or some of the rumors, right? Is it's their last thing for Roadrunner. It's their last album that they have to put out for Roadrunner. So it's like, fuck it, just throw this shit out there.
Well, they put Adderall, the EP. That was like that was a big what the fuck is this? And I was just like, never gonna listen to that again.
Yeah. What did you give it, Rob? Did you say your rating?
Yes, or I thought I did. Maybe I didn't. I gave this one a 7.6. This is my lowest rating, just below Volume 3, which is saying a lot because this one actually is
my lowest too. Is my lowest too? Yeah, I give it a 6.2. I just think it's kind of shit. You heard they had a new album coming, and it was after We Are Not Your Kind, so your expectations are high for them again, and then they dropped this, and it was like, oh. Right.
There was nothing that I was really like gonna want to like sing along to, or like I don't know. There was nothing that just like really moved me that much. I didn't think it was horrible, but I didn't think it was. I don't know. It sounded like Slipknot. It felt like Slipknot. It just didn't feel like they were in it.
Good Slipknot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, this was the final record on their contract that they signed. So, they wanted to put something out, and they wanted to just slap something out there. And even Jim Root even admitted, like, hey, he's like, I'm not a big fan of it, blah blah blah, but at least he was kind of honest about it. But I will say Warranty and Hive Mind are two decent songs. I don't mind either of them. Other than that, I gave it a 6 just because of those two songs. I actually really like both of them. Other than that, it's a big turd, and if they play those songs, I'm okay. But besides that, I hope we never even have to speak of it again.
And yeah, I will say the same. I can echo that. I think this is one of those albums that if they progress, do more shows, maybe a few more albums, we're not going to hear anything from this. They're not going to play anything. Kind of like Metallica with Saint Anger. They don't play that shit anymore.
Will we actually get any more Slipknot albums? Because the way that they sound is that they just want to kind of release singles from this point on.
Well, we'll see what we get. We're down to 5 original members, technically original. We'll call original from the self-titled. We're not going to go back to Mate, Feed, Kill, Repeat and talk about the original singers and such. But that's where we're at. So we kind of just went through everything for you. And to recap it now, the Metalhead Evolution Slipknot album rankings, here they are, as we from the worst to first. Worst, and so far, aggregate rating between the 4 of us is a 5.6. Number 6 is All Hope Is Gone at 7.4. Coming in at number 5 would be Volume 3, Subliminal Verses at 7.5 there. Number 4 would be The Gray Chapter, 7.8. Number 3 is We Are Not Your Kind at 8.9. And Iowa is number 2 at a rating of 9.2. And all 4 of us gentlemen gave a very high rating to a very memorable special album, the self-titled Slipknot album from 1999, which is absolutely is at 9.7 as the number 1 Slipknot album. No surprise there. I wanted to ask you guys before we start wrapping some things up, your favorite mask. What's the best mask you have from this band? If we just throughout the years, you could, what was your favorite mask of all
it's
the
OG Clown?
The OG clown? That's pretty
Hands
weird
down.
for you to say from a guy who shits his pants when he sees a fucking clown. So I don't know. Maybe you just
dude.
like to be scared.
I don't know what it is, man. I think it's all of it.
Really?
I think it's just like the OG clown mask for me is just like, I feel like it embodies what Slipknot is, right? Like towards the end of the touring cycle, it's fucking sewn, like the sides are sewn up and shit because it was just falling apart, and just everything about Clown was just fucked up, right? Every time you see him in an interview, he's just talking about how he hates people and wants to kill people. Every time you see his head, his head's tilted sideways like a scary ass clown. That clown mask, that shit was the coolest goddamn mask I've ever seen. That shit was awesome.
That's a tough to argue
Only cool
right
kids
there.
shit their pants.
That's right. And I'm gonna say the original Joey Jordison mask. I like that. I thought it was just a cool looking, freaky looking mask with him behind the drum kit. I always dug that. I liked a lot of different ones. I just sprung this right now, so I might change. I might change my mind in 10 minutes. But right now, Joey's mask, his original, would be what I would like. I'd say is my favorite.
Well, I got to go with Sid's. I got to go with Sid. His gas masks, and then he's such a creepy dude. He just came up with like, how can I make this creepier and creepier as he went along, and then with the weird baby face going into the We Are Not Your Kind. Like he's always just had like, and then he actually carries that mask around, and like it actually like moves on the stage now, even though he retired it. So like the mouth of the mask like moves while he's DJing and stuff.
That's his face.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a mask of himself, and it's his
creepy.
face, and the mouth moves to Corey's vocals. So the mouth like mouth out Corey's vocals. Learned it on the House of Masks. It's a YouTube channel that sometimes I eat some candy and dive into a little bit.
Great channel. Absolutely great channel. Any Slipknot fan should go check that channel out. That guy's so knowledgeable about masks, about Slipknot masks throughout the years, and then I think they even helped make the new Mudvayne masks and stuff like that for Greg and for all them. So
yeah,
I gotta say I'm partial to the original Corey Taylor mask. I don't know. It's iconic to me and classic. Yeah, I call it that. And it's so memorable for me, and it made such an impression. So, gotta love that. Or you know what, mixed mask too. I forget which album cycle is on, which is it's just like
his are so similar.
In the metal,
his
like
just
dark,
he just has the same theme every time. I like Jim Root, what he does too.
Jim Roots are always awesome.
We
like all the albums, and we like all the masks.
Like I think Jim Root looks like so solid in that Phantom of the Opera mask, and like his outfit on stage, like he just looks fucking sharp, like and like badass at the same time.
Yeah, he looks cool as hell the whole time.
I like that. He's got his like sleeves rolled up a little, his tattoos are showing. It's just, I don't know, it just looks good.
So let me ask you guys this question. I want to follow that up with this, and I want to get your honest opinions. Now, how big would Slipknot have been if they never had the mask gimmick? If they just came out as a group of 9 regular dudes in t-shirts, long hair, whatever the hell they were doing, just doing their same shit, everything's the same, but they never wore the masks. Where would this band be, and what would be different, and what do you really believe? There's no right or wrongs here. This is all your own opinion and a hypothetical. Brad, I want to hear from you first.
I mean, I think it all goes together hand in hand. I mean, it's part of it. It's part of who they are as a band. So yeah, I mean, I would say they probably would not have reached where they're at now without the masks.
You think they should ever play a show maskless?
No.
Like Kiss did?
No.
When they took the makeup off and put the X in sex?
If enough money's involved, maybe they'll do it, but what? No, absolutely not.
At this point, what's the point, right?
The whole point is Slipknot is Slipknot. It's not about who's behind. It's not about who's behind the mask at this point. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
they kind of want to keep, because they know more members and stuff are going to go in and out.
And we've seen Corey Taylor at Stone Sour maskless. It wouldn't be really a surprise at this point in any way. So you got
Jim too at Stone Sour. You know what he looks like maskless,
right?
Know?
So what do you think, Sean? Then you think that this band would have reached the same heights without the masks, without the gimmick?
No, there's 0%. I think, and the masks too were just something new. It just everything they brought to the table when they first started. Like Rob said something good too when he was talking about later. Whoever said something about one of the masks just being an iconic mask. The Joey mask. You said the Joey mask is just like an iconic mask behind the drums, and it's just I think. It's almost like I can close my eyes and see the cover of those guys in those masks. And I think it's just all of those masks that from that first album, especially, have left such an imprint on me in my life. It's almost like the masks are all part of it. When you tell me Corey Taylor, I don't think of his face. I think of that first Slipknot mask. You know what I mean? When you're like, oh yeah, Slipknot, you don't think of an unmasked Corey Taylor. You think of Corey as, as number 8. Yes. I think without the masks, they're an average band. Not musically, obviously they're not, but I think just the whole shtick is they're just another band.
So like Sleep Token, just another band.
For sure, 1,000,000%. I would absolutely agree with that. Yeah, you take the masks off those guys, and now it's just, I mean, same thing. I've seen those guys maskless. I know why not many times do I say I'm more handsome than somebody, but knowing what that bass player looks like, I'll tell you this, I'm better looking than that guy.
Hey, Ghost has done it. Ghost, and people know what Tobias looks like now. And it doesn't matter. Like, it's irrelevant at this point.
It's a performance. It's the internet. It's a show. It's the show of it.
With the way the internet is nowadays, you can't hide behind a mask forever. You're gonna be exposed. Rob, I'm assuming that you agree with everything we've said here.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Yeah, but I think musically, it's 9 guys. Like, I mean, if you have 9 guys, there's got to be a fucking show around that. Like, there's got to be some sort of like piece of it, like, because you literally don't need that many people on there to make this music. Like, I mean, yeah, it adds a little flair, it adds a little something, but I mean, you remove those kegs and a couple of those drums that you can hardly hear on the recordings anyways.
Yeah. Now it's been said that they split the money, their income equally. Brad, you might know more about this. I don't know a lot. I just know that it's been stated that all 9 guys split the profits, what they make as a band, equally. Do you believe that? Do you believe that?
I do not believe that.
I don't believe that either.
I believe that the band and everything runs through Clown. Sean runs the show. It is the Clown show, pun intended, but it is Sean, and I think Corey probably has a little more voice in the matter, but at the end of the day, any business goes through Clown. That's just what it is. It's what it's always been from the start of this band, and it will be till the death of the band.
Well,
I think part of it, maybe if they were splitting anything 9 ways, it'd be like what they get on tour, or something like that. Like maybe they split something 9 ways, but it's for sure not Slipknot as a whole. That's for 100%. There's no way they would do that.
Especially with the guys who have joined later. I'd say there's no way those guys are going to get an even cut.
Unless they sign on now, kind of like what's his name did with Metallica. They said, you're part of Metallica now. So if Slipknot's big enough to kind of do something like that and just say, hey, you're like, I guarantee Jay gets a heavy cut. You know what I mean? Jay Weinberg for sure is getting a large cut of that. And I think they say, they say, hey, you're a member now. And now you're part of Slipknot, and we're going to show you you're part of Slipknot. This is how Metallica laid the blueprint, I think,
Yeah, I was just going to mention Jason Newsted made enough money off the Black album to literally not ever have to work again a day in his life if he didn't want to.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that album's paying them out to this day. So
I'm
sure we'll have
it's still.
And Rob, don't worry. I'm sure the Metallica dedicated episode is not far off. So don't you worry about that. Now, I want to just quickly, guys, I want to play a little game with you before we give our final thoughts on Slipknot. I'm going to read a lyric, okay? And this lyric is from a song from Slipknot or from a band equally as heavy, One Direction. And I'm going to read the lyric, and then we're going to go in this order: Brad, Rob, Sean. Got it? Brad, Rob, Sean, every time. And you say who whose lyric that is. Is it One Direction or is it Slipknot? That's it. All right, here we go. And girl, what a mess I made upon your innocence.
Slipknot.
Rob?
Slipknot.
Slipknot.
That's a One Direction lyric. Okay, next up, I have sinned by just making my mind up and taking your breath away.
One Direction.
Slipknot.
One Direction.
Let's Wait and Bleed, Slipknot.
God damn.
Okay.
See, I told you that song's iconic. I can't forget a word from it. I told you, no. You see?
And maybe that's the reason that you talk in your sleep. And all those conversations are the secrets that I keep.
Slipknot.
Slipknot.
One Direction.
That is One Direction, Little Things.
Let's go.
All right. I get nervous.
I'm so bad at this.
It's all right. I get nervous, perverse. When I see her, it's worse.
Slipknot.
Slipknot.
Slipknot. There's no way Harry Styles out there saying perverse.
It's Slipknot Vermilion. Okay. Next up, I don't know what to do when she makes me sad. She is everything to be.
One Direction.
Slipknot.
One Direction.
Slipknot Vermilion Part 2.
Damn it.
Okay, next up, I hope your heart is strong enough when the night is coming down on you.
Slipknot.
One Direction.
One Direction.
It's One Direction, Through the Dark.
Let's go.
Next up, I still press your letters to my lips and cherish them in parts of me that savor every kiss.
Slipknot.
One Direction.
Slipknot.
That is Slipknot Snuff. Okay. Now
Rob's
I
just
am I
doing
winning?
opposite of me. Rob's just doing opposite of what I say. So
Oh,
Not a
what I
bad,
say,
not
I'm
not
just
a bad
giving-
strategy.
Not
Not a bad
entirely.
strategy. I think I'm winning.
I
It's
think
probably
I'm,
a solid strategy.
I'm doing better than you, actually.
Okay. I'm not keeping score, so we're gonna have to you guys
So
are gonna
I'm
have to
winning.
listen
I'm
back
winning
to see
by
who's
one.
winning. So
I'm
right,
not
winning, I
winning.
think. Here we go.
next lyric. Now I'm climbing the walls, but you don't notice at all that I'm going out of my mind all day and all night.
One Direction.
One Direction.
One Direction.
Is One Direction, One Thing is the name of the song. All right. Next up. All my friends have pictures made to make you cry.
Slipknot.
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 You're all correct. Who can name the song? Nobody?
I can't.
It's Left Behind. Okay, next
Oh
up.
my God.
You say it so poetic. I have no idea.
I know,
what
that's
song
the
it
thing.
is.
When
I'm
you
not
say it
singing
like
to
that,
you.
it's
I'm not
hard.
singing it. I'm just saying it as I want to read it.
It's a poem. Everything's a poem.
It's going to be read in poetry form. You guys got to really know this. Okay. We could start over. Just look at me in the eyes and say I'm wrong.
One Direction.
One Direction.
Slipknot.
Oh, come on, guys. I even knew this was Slipknot. Just look me in the eyes and say I'm wrong. Psychosocial. All right.
Let's go.
Next
I think
up-
I'm winning by 2 now. I'm
This is
definitely-
one thing I'm
going
going to say to my defense, maybe Brad's defense too, because I don't think he's like this either. I'm not a big lyric guy. I don't remember him very well.
I'll tell you guys, I'm probably doing terrible at this too. But anyways, all right. I think I'm going to lose my mind. Something deep inside me I can't give up.
One Direction.
One Direction.
One Direction.
It is One Direction, a song called Fireproof. All right. A couple more here.
I was
Tell
going
me,
to say, are we doing all the songs
No,
from
no,
both
there's-
of their catalogs? Is that what we're?
there's four,
There's a lot of songs.
there's 4 lyrics left. Okay. 4 left.
All
Okay.
right. All right.
Here we go. Tell me the reality is better than the dream, but I found out the hard way. Nothing is what it seems.
Slipknot.
Slipknot.
I put my fingers at your mind. Slipknots.
Very good. It is duality. Very nice. Okay. Next up, we won't walk alone any longer. What doesn't kill us only makes us stronger.
One Direction.
One Direction.
One Direction.
That's Slipknot, Pulse of the Maggots.
Damn it.
Okay. 2 more.
Yeah.
Whether we're together or apart, we can both remove the masks and admit we start it. Okay. And admit
Fuck
we
you,
regret
One
it from
Direction.
the start. I don't know.
One Direction.
One Direction.
Yeah, it's One Direction. Removing the mask. It popped me a little bit. I didn't realize that was going to be in there. Okay, last one. Seems to me that when I die, these words will be written on my stone.
Slipknot.
Slipknot.
Yeah, it's One Direction. Story of my life. Okay, you guys did awful,
Banger.
and I can't.
Story of my
I can't,
life.
and I'm not going to make fun of anybody because I would have probably done worse than all of you. So
I won,
that-
which feels good, honestly, to feel
you
to win. I feels good. You guys
probably
wouldn't
did
know,
win.
but it feels good.
I'm
thought I
glad.
did.
I'm glad you won that. So let's just close it up here. I think I guess let's just end it. You know, Brad, you can start it off for us. Let's where is this band headed? What are we going to see? And give us your closing statements on this band and what it means to you and whatever you want to say, really.
Well, actually, I have one last question before we close this up, and it's kind of an important one. You know, Slipknot members all have like their own side projects. What do you guys think of them? Do you guys have any favorites? Are you guys curious about any of them? I mean, you have Sid's DJ Starscream. You know, Joey was in a couple of bands, Murder Dolls, and a couple others. And actually, Chris Fain was actually in Will Haven. I don't know if he knew he performed with Will Haven. And obviously, you know, you have Stone Sour, which kind of had a lot of history with, you know, Jim Root getting fired from Stone Sour. You know, who thought what was going to happen with that if that was going to affect his, you know, role in Slipknot too.
Well, I'll tell you, I was never big on any of the side projects very much so, and I would probably not be giving it justice because I don't think I gave enough of a chance to any of it. But I do recall seeing the band Vimic. That was Joey's band for a little bit. It was a Chicago open air, and they did have some songs I enjoyed, and I did see them. But that would probably be the one that I would tell you that I enjoyed over everything. I can't hate on anything. I'm not a big Stone Sour fan. They have a few good songs, but I never really got into them too much. So
Stone Sour was the only one I really paid attention to. I listened to that first album. It was good. The second album I didn't like as much, and that was kind of it for me on the side projects. I was like, I'll just stick to Slipknot. But kind of the same way. I'm ignorant to the other stuff. Was never really checked out Murder Dolls, never checked out any of Joey's stuff. Sid stuff, never really checked out. But yeah, Stone Sour, that first album I liked. I was into them.
Yeah, same thing. Stone Sour, really. They're okay. I think they have a few songs that are pretty damn good. But other than that, yeah, no, haven't really.
So at the end of the day, CMFT can't be stopped. I understand.
Well, I hear you. That's our Slipknot episode, guys. I mean, I don't know. How would you guys venture a guess? Are we going to get, how many more albums are we going to get from this band? What do you say, Brad? How many albums have you had a guess? What are we going to see? This is hypothetical as it gets.
I don't think we're going to see any more albums from them. I think we're just going to get singles. That's it.
Singles. Rob?
Y'all want a single?
No.
That's the new.
Somebody edit that part out. Jeez.
Oh, come on. That was too easy. I think the end so far is the gateway to the next page, the next chapter of Slipknot. So I think we'll at least get another 3 or 4 more albums.
I think we're going to get one more. I think it's going to be called The End for real this time, and that's going to be it.
I don't care about albums. I don't care if they put out any more albums. What I do want is what they've hinted at, and what you're seeing a little bit of places is them doing small venues and just coming and doing full albums. Like, give me 5 nights at the House of Blues, like old Slipknot, and just fucking come in, do the first album, do the second album, give me the third album, and then give me a night of greatest hits. And I'd be there all 4 nights without batting an eye at cost, nothing. I would be there all 4 nights if I could get tickets. If Brad could get us tickets, let's be real. If Brad
just
could
come to
hit
United Center and do that for 5 nights, please.
I want a small venue. Bring back the small venue Slipknot.
Well, we're actually forgetting one big thing, and we're actually might get an album sooner than you think. And I don't know if you remember hearing about this. It's called Look Outside Your Window. It was like rough cuts that were from the All Hope Is Gone era, and it was Corey, Sid, Jim, and Clown, and it was like, I guess I'm actually looking it up right now. It says a super experimental, vibey album, and yeah, so that album is supposed to be released. I think it was supposed to already be released, but I think in the next like 3 months we might actually have that album.
Well, I guess we'll have to just wait and see.
So I'll say one. I'll say one album,
He's
knowing
changed
that's
he's
coming.
changed it.
Another demo album.
I guess we'll see. You know, guys, we're pretty fortunate. We're pretty fortunate growing up. I think we were all the right age for that new metal boom. I'm sorry, but I think that was just a perfect time to be a teen. Just getting into music at that time. I think that Slipknot really was one of the, if not the main kind of thing to see at that point. I think Korn kind of put it out there that started up the new metal deal, and I think then Slipknot took it and ran with it. And I would say that between Korn and Slipknot, those are the two most iconic new metal bands. Maybe along you could throw Limp Bizkit in there if you'd like, but as far as that era goes, those are the big three. Yeah,
Linkin Park.
Yeah, Linkin Park's in there for sure. They came on a little bit later within there, but you can't argue with Hybrid Theory and Meteora as new metal. Absolutely, I would put that.
Yeah, I think if you gave me Korn, Linkin Park, and Slipknot, those are like the three different. Like they're three different enough bands, but it embodies all of new metal. You know what I'm saying?
You're Disturbed, Mike.
Disturbed is in there.
Wow.
They're up there. They're definitely up there. And you see, now we just actually went into a new metal Mount Rushmore thing that Brad didn't want to do right now. So we're gonna pass along on that. But yeah, I mean, you guys got any last words on Slipknot? Anything else you guys want to say about them? Anything personal to you? Something what it means to you? What these guys mean to you in your life? Anything you guys want to put out there? Some sentimental shit?
We wouldn't have this podcast if it weren't for you, Slipknot.
This is true. Slipknot is the reason for this podcast. Rob, you got anything?
You know what I'll say? Like Slipknot was, aside, like Metallica got me to heavy music, but Slipknot like got me into the gateway to the really heavy music. Along with Pantera, yeah, but like they're a big influence on me musically. So love them.
Go on.
Yeah, I mean they're one of the best. They're one of the best to do it ever. I think they have an impact on me for the rest of my life more than a lot of bands and a lot of music will. They're one of the best.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, if you're listening to this and for some reason you have never seen Slipknot live, do it if it happens again, because you don't know how much with these bands who are approaching 25, 30 years old, you really don't know how many more opportunities you are going to go to get to see them. So I would definitely make it a priority to go see Slipknot if you haven't done it. So moving forward, ending this thing here, we really covered Slipknot pretty in depth here. I think we have 4 really good minds in there, the different perspectives that we have around the band, shared those and what it means to us. So we're going to be back again in a few months, I'm sure, with another one, and 10 episodes later from here. But it is Halloween, and I thought Halloween time right now, and I believe that Slipknot is a great band to throw in there as our first one, being the time of the year. But we're going to try to come back, I believe, by the end here and do a Halloween themed episode. I really want to get that up there for episode number 6. I think that'll be something that we do. So for Brad, for Rob, and for Sean, thank you for listening to our very first band dedicated episode, and we will see you on the next one.